Hello, everyone. This is Dean Dormady with DD Ventures. Let's get into it today. Why sulfuric acid fluids management is a science and an art. So let's get into it. So managing consumption and production of sulfuric acid. Sulfuric acid is highly volatile. It is a density, the density of sulfuric acid is 15.3. What I did here while I was working in a mining organization, what we did here was on a daily basis, I applied my inventory management and inventory control fundamentals to building out this model and being able to manage the production with the consumption of the tanks across multiple sites at mine sites. So in this particular example, the production site is one site. It has so much available tank space, and based on how much the site actually produces from a gallons per minute perspective. So in column I is your gallons per minute. And the way I would get that is I would call the site manager to get what their projected gallons per minute throughout the next 24 hours would be to plug into this calculation. I would do this on a 24-hour basis. And here it would say, I'd also ask them what their current tank level was. So I'd input those numbers. So what percentage is the tank at? In this particular case, it's 70%. What are the gallons per minute? 30. So they're going to do 30 gallons per minute within the next 24-hour period minus any shutdowns or stop in production or increase in production, which we won't know until the next day. But this gives us a good understanding early on of what we need to tell the truckers, what they need to pull from this particular tank and distribute to the other consumption tanks. Now, each of the other consumption tanks only have a certain capacity. So you need to know what they're able to take. And this is this is the calculation sheet. So in mining, most operations are emergency organizations. So they don't wait until they do anything until something goes wrong, which is a really bad scenario. And so my goal here was to kind of put some structure around how much the truckers need to pull from the production tank and how much they need to distribute to the other tanks, so that one, those other tanks don't go empty, but also that the production tank doesn't get too overfilled based on how much they're producing within that day. And if the consumption tanks end up going over capacity, we need to go out to the market, either give it away or sell it. Ideally, we want to sell it, but within sulfuric acid, there were a lot of scenarios where we were just getting them to pay for freight. So that's this particular example. Now, column M is this calculation is really calculating whether the production tank stays at 70%. It will only calculate tons produced in a day divided by 25 tons to get to the number of trucks that need to be moved in a 24-hour period at 30 gallons per minute. Now, that gallons per minute can change. So it just depends on what the site operator tells me in the morning at 6 a.m. And so this is how this is calculated. Then I go out to the truckers and I say, hey, I need you to pull X number of tons within the next 24 hours. And if you don't, then they're responsible. So another thing that this sheet inevitably allowed us to do was to hold trucking companies accountable for having to bring in additional trucks overnight because they didn't pull the number of trucks that we told them to. So if I told them to pull 5.5 trucks for the next day and they only pulled 3, well, then that tank's going to be at a critical situation over 70%. And guess what? We've got to rush in additional trucks. Well, normally nobody's managing this from a time perspective. And then the trucking company just charges you an extra charge to rush those people in. So time and a half for new truckers to come in, Well, in this scenario, with this calculation and the email, hey, I told you to pull 5 trucks yesterday. You only pulled 3. You're now on the hook for bringing in those and paying for those extra trucks and that overtime for those truckers. So number one, we were able to manage the emergencies quite well with this process, but also we were able to hold the truckers accountable, thus reducing our operating cost to manage this product. Column N, this calculation tells you the total amount of space left in the production tank in 25-ton pneumatic truck loads. In other words, it says if I want to maximize each internal tank at 91% by tomorrow morning, we need to pull, or the trucker needs to pull 3.32359 trucks per day. This tank and then send it out to this tank in order to make sure that it's at 91% tomorrow. Your ultimate goal here is to balance your internal capacity with what actually needs to be pulled from the production tank. As long as you pull the calculated number of 25-ton trucks from the production tank within the next 24 hours and the gallons per minute stay constant based on your inputs from the stakeholders each morning at 6 a.m., the tank will still be at your desired forecasted tank level the next morning. If you pull more from the consumption tank than planned, you'll start drawing the tank below the forecasted target of 70%, which in this tank's capacity for the production tank scenario it's okay because they typically want to keep it between 35 and 65% at all times. We're just putting it at 70% as a target so that we always try to get there. And then in order to keep the internal tanks at the same level, they're at the same current level of their readings in column G, you would send approximately 5.42. So this calculation is telling them from an exact number of trucks that you need to pull from one production tank, and also the number of trucks you need and how to split that up to your consumption tanks. So I hope you like this video. Please like and subscribe. If you have any questions or need any help with your capacity, supply and demand capacity assumptions, I'd be happy to help you with your calculations and work with your team. And hopefully you enjoyed this video. Talk to you soon. Thanks.